Venus and star blessings, everybody. Let's have a look at the solar eclipse coming up. I have touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to just offer just a few more points about it. It is just a couple of days away, really. Okay, so here is the chart. This is based in Melbourne, Australia. So never mind the position of where everything is. We just need to note the degrees, which is 10 degrees of Libra. It's a new moon. It's a solar eclipse. And as you can see, Lilith is there, Mercury is there. A day before this, there was a cazimi between the Sun and Mercury. Neptune is on the North Node. Chiron has a wide opposition to the new moon, solar eclipse. And there is an opposition between Mars and Ceres. And they are actually squaring the nodal axes as well, very closely, actually, particularly Ceres. So there's a few things to consider from that perspective, but I think the first place where I really want to begin is that this is the last solar eclipse in Libra that we will have until the next one we'll see will be in 2043. So about 18, 19 years away. So that within itself tells us that this is a really crucial passage of things completing and finishing and finalizing and clearing. And what are the things that are finishing and finalizing and completing and clearing? They are specific relationships, Libra, and also it's not just relationships that you are involved in. It can just be specific patterns that you have in relationships, that you've had in relationships, certain imprints, certain karmic matters, themes, resolutions, things that have needed to be understood, honestly, confronted, worked through, and ultimately left behind. Bernadette Brady, who is, a specialist in eclipses particularly, in her book, The Eagle and the Lark, she doesn't say very much, but she says this, and I think we can just we can see just how important and perhaps, I suppose, challenging this particular solar eclipse is. She pretty much says this, okay? Separation and loss, to be parted, to finish something, and to feel sad at its completion. And then she says, physical injury is also possible through overstraining one's strength. This is not a time to undertake strenuous physical activities. Now, one might think, well, how does that fit in? And, why is that important? Well, it can be very important for certain individuals. Some people will have a certain story or situation where this particular point is actually quite crucial and important to note and to pay attention to. Before I unpack further some of these themes, I'm actually writing a class at the moment on Lilith, the goddess Lilith, and also the asteroid Lucifer. And, every time I put together a class, I reflect on a lot of different things, including in my own life, people I know, things that are going on in the world. And it synchronistically seems to happen that every time I write a class, whatever the topic may be, I am just given information or visions or intuition or just new insight. Things just pop up, right? They just show up at the very moment that I need them, let's say, in order to really delve very deeply into the topic that I'm actually writing about. And so much has been coming my way just in the last 2 weeks where I've been writing this class, putting it together. And it's a very it's a very interesting subject, the subject of Lilith. And I bring her up as well. And by the way, if you want to join that class, that's this week on it'll be Thursday evening, New York City time, 8:30 p.m. So if you would like to join, just send me an email and I can send you the information. Lilith is, look at this, she's exactly, this is true Lilith, okay? The true black moon Lilith. There are actually 4 different positions we can use for Lilith, and they all have some type of relevance. They all describe different and similar things. But in my personal opinion, why would you use a mean position? Because that's the other position we could take, the mean position, which is the most popular one, because it's the easiest one to use, because the mean position is just an average calculation, which means that Lilith will move through a sign in a straightforward manner, just like every other planet does through a sign. Whereas the true position of Lilith, she jumps around. The difference between them sometimes can be up to 30 degrees. So my take on it is why take an average when you can take the exact position? That's why it's called the true position. It's the exact true position. So this is the true black moon, exactly conjunct the solar eclipse. And, actually, before I unpack that, I just want to read this quote to you that I came across today, which I absolutely love. And some might understand it and some might not. And so I cannot decide that for you. That's something that you will process or understand or integrate when you hear it. It's from a guy called Master Peter Dunov. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The spelling of his name, just in case some of you might want to know, where's his name? Well, I've seen it spelled a couple of different names. You can spell it Danov, which will be Dunov. He's a Bulgarian philosopher, basically, right? A spiritual teacher and philosopher. And he was around, well, quite a long time ago, actually. Let me see. In the 1800s. So he was born 11th of July, 1864, in Bulgaria. Anyway, the quote is this: "Give me your sadness, I will give you joy, and I will gain more than you." Now, you have to really think about that. In fact, it's not about thinking, rather, it's really about intuiting the depth of that piece of wisdom that he speaks in just a few words. And it can sound really bizarre or contradictory, but I think if you have depth of understanding about spirit and soul and the meaning of life and the purpose of life and God and source and goddess and divine inspiration and what we're doing here on this planet, why we are here, and all those sorts of things. Let's say if you have some sort of connection to those that way of understanding life, you'll understand the wisdom in this saying. And I'll just say it one more time. He says, "Give me your sadness, I will give you joy, and I will gain more than you." So, I mean, my understanding of that particular statement, it's quite complex. We could talk about it for hours, but very simply put, I think what he's trying to express there is that there is um, there is so much value in all uh, all our difficult experiences in life, and it's not about just everything being perfect and being happy all the time. It is about weaving through all the different shades and colors and tones and vibrations and passages and opening different doors and opening our mind, opening our heart, experiencing loss, experiencing grief, experiencing joy, experiencing everything. And he's alluding to the fact that if you if you try to get rid of your sadness and just replace it with joy all the time, you're missing something. You're missing something quite significant, right? That's in a nutshell what he's trying to say. As I said, we could talk about philosophize about that statement for a very long time, but given this is a one-way conversation, that is, I'm talking to a microphone and you guys are listening, that's not going to happen. Anyway, I wanted to bring that quote in simply because the meaning to this solar eclipse is so strongly associated to loss and, departing and leaving certain things behind, people, attitudes, behaviors, and so forth. And even though in the loss, which Ceres is square this solar eclipse, and Ceres is the goddess of grief and loss, mourning, something dying. But on the flip side of that coin, she also reflects renewal, regeneration, transformation, and wisdom. So, it is pretty obvious what's happening here. Basically, we've had, the nodal axis of the moon in Aries Libra for the last 16 months or whatever it's been. And that passage, the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, Rahu and Ketu, the moon's nodes, whatever you want to call them, they are doorways. They are doorways that correspond to the two primary luminaries, the sun and the moon, the relationship between them, the king and the queen, the masculine and the feminine, the divine feminine, divine masculine, the mother and father within us, the feminine and masculine within us, and the doorways of our experience in relationships and the doorway into understanding our own identity areas. And so we've had so many opportunities and lessons and challenges and growth, over the last 16 months with these nodes being in Aries and Libra. And this is the final doorway. This is the last solar eclipse in Libra until 2043. So, obviously it's going to be a different experience for all of us. But I think what perhaps many of us would have in common, I would hope anyway, is the realization and the clarity, that's come through these doorways that have been highlighted through the moon's nodes in Aries and Libra for the last 16 months. And what have we learnt about ourselves in relationship to everything, actually? Because we have a relationship with everything. We have a relationship with ourself, with our family, with our loved ones, with our partner, with our pets, We have a relationship with music, with art, with whatever it is that we engage in. You know, when we are engaging in something, we are relating with it, aren't we? So, you know, the principle of relationship, which derives from the goddess Venus, of course, is at the heart and at the core of it. It is Venus is what we love, you know, what we love and value. So we invest, you know, and value and put our focus and time and heart and energy into something or someone, right? Whatever it is. And of course, Libra is the mirror of everything. So when you have a Libra solar eclipse and it's the final one, it's like the mirror, you know, shining at its brightest, if you like, and closing a door there because it's been open for quite some time, showing us the things that we've needed to come to terms with, the things that we've needed to understand, the things that we've needed to let go of, transform, transmute, where we've needed to rebirth ourselves. So, you know, this is a huge, a huge cycle coming to an end, if you like, right? And so it's not like this solar eclipse is going to speak to just one isolated event. Really, what we need to be thinking about is what's been happening in our life relative to how we relate to everything in life, how we relate to source, to spirit, to love, to people, to animals, to the earth, to wisdom, to whatever it is, everything, right? What have we learned in that process? And very specifically, in relationship to people. Now, whether it's a lover or whether it's a sibling or whether it's a friend, you know, all those connections are some type of relationship, and every kind of relationship acts as a mirror, acts as a doorway, a pathway for us to see ourselves more clearly, to understand more about ourselves as we continue to grow in this journey called life. So when we're looking at this solar eclipse, it really is, you know, thinking about the last 16, 17 months and how we've been traversing in that journey. And, you know, because Lilith is conjunct this solar eclipse, Lilith represents so many different things, and I'm really excited about this class that I'm teaching this week. So once again, if you want to, you know, do a deep dive into Lilith and her history and the different versions that exist with Lilith, you know, black moon as in the true position, then the mean position, then the asteroid, then we've got Algol, the fixed star Algol. That's another representation of Lilith. You know, there's a few different positions of Lilith. They all have something different to show. But anyway, yeah, if you want to explore that more, just reach out. But one thing is for certain when it comes to Lilith, and that is when she is present in a pattern, a doorway, and this is a pattern of energy. It's a doorway, and it's a door that's been open for some time and that is coming to a close, right? When Lilith is present, basically she will bring the hardcore truth to whatever she's touching, so to speak, whatever doorway she's entered. You know, why is she there? What does she want us to see about her presence? And Lilith is very simply put an archetype that corresponds, pardon me, to truth, right? To knowing yourself so much that actually you don't need another to reflect back anything back to you because you are so clear on who you are. That's one way of looking at Lilith as well. I mean, she speaks to, as I said, a lot of different things, you know, autonomy, freedom, she steps outside of the norm and the consensus. You know, she doesn't fit in this little box where let's just say that the patriarchal system tried to place her, as it were. She was the first wife of Adam, right? She really does seek equality as well, by the way. When things are not balanced, and this is a solar eclipse in Libra, the archetype that corresponds to balance. Corresponds to balance. It doesn't mean that Libra is absolutely 100% balanced. When the archetype Libra is energized, you know, present, strong in somebody's chart, a solar eclipse, you know, whatever it is, it's from an evolutionary perspective at least, it corresponds more to the striving of creating that balance in our life. So it doesn't mean that Libra is automatically 100% balanced. However, there is a strong need here to attain some type of balance in everything that we have been processing and experiencing the last, you know, as I said, 16 months or so. And Lilith it's like she's got the sword of truth. She holds the sword of truth. And she cuts through all the BS. The BS that we ourselves hold on to, believe, are disillusioned about, and any BS that we are hearing, observing, and witnessing outside of ourselves as well, coming from others. So she holds the sword of truth. And, you know, look at Venus. She's in Scorpio. And Scorpio is absolutely not going to tolerate any BS, especially when Scorpio is operating at a more conscious level. When Scorpio is operating at a more conscious level, connected to soul, connected to truth, then it absolutely cuts through, you know, all the superficial BS that we believe or present about ourselves and so forth. So Venus in Scorpio is really only adding to the necessary transformation that we are going through with this final solar eclipse in Libra. And to add to that, if you look at Neptune, which is at 28 degrees of Pisces retrograde, it's actually conjunct the North Node. It's an out-of-sign conjunction, but it is still there. And Neptune will be conjunct that North Node, you know, really until next year, early next year. So in this solar eclipse, we could say that part of this story as well, with Lilith, the sword of truth, being right there, cutting through all the bullshit, Neptune on the North Node, once again, is another doorway telling us that, well, it's telling us a lot of different things, but here's a couple of ideas. It is about actually releasing a lot of fantasies and, you know, disillusionments that we've had, you know, about relationships and about people. And even more so about, because it's conjunct the North Node, that is Neptune. So this is the North Node, of course, always speaks to the direction we are evolving towards at any given moment, right? So Neptune, you know, on the North Node is also suggesting that one of the most important things that we need to realize in this integration process and clearing and growing is that we must return back to spirit for truth, because Neptune is spirit, source, and the ultimate truth. And if you look at the world today, what's you know, the biggest thing that's missing is that so many people have lost touch with soul and spirit, right? And everyone, not everyone, but most people, you know, seem to be more driven, motivated, um, and desire for, you know, just the material plane, money, success, advancement, you know, more this, more that, bigger house, etc., etc. And the split that exists in humanity, that is how far away humanity has moved from source and soul and spirit, is absolutely obvious. Just look at the sheer nature of greed. You know, look at what people are motivated and driven by. And, you know, it's so false because it's all temporary. It's temporary happiness. So Neptune on the North Node, I think, is another doorway reminding us that in this journey of redefining who we are, Aries, and leaving old patterns behind of how we have been in relationships, this journey of redefining our own sense of identity is also about integrating with spirit, Neptune, and remembering soul, remembering what's really important, connecting, reconnecting back to source, to the meaning of life, to the light. That's not to say that we should have an attitude of you know, looking at the darker things and calling them dark and bad and wrong and so on and so forth, because that we cannot exist in a world where there is only light. You know, we live in a world of duality, and all these divinities, they too, you know, have a light and dark aspect, if you like, or shadow quality or polarized components about itself and so forth. Nothing exists as just one thing. It's all, everything that you see in this chart right now, including your own chart, is an expression and a reflection of God, source creation itself, moving through, creating different patterns, different lights, opening different doorways, inviting us into different fields of experience. Those sorts of things, in evolutionary astrology at least, can be defined through what's called separating desires. Separating desires, according to Jeffrey Wolf Green, just simply means that the more separating desires we have, the further away we are from God. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, because that's just what seems to happen to every soul in order to evolve. You know, we have all these different desires, so we incarnate and have all these different experiences and passages and stories, and we could repeat things over many, many lifetimes. So Neptune on the North Node is just a very powerful reminder of what are we doing with our life and in this world? Where is the meaning? Where is soul and spirit and God and source in your life? Where is it? It's there because you are it. But where is your connection? Where is your attention? You know, the more we move away from it, I think, how can I put it? The more we move away from the God source, the more we can be influenced by energies, entities. Now, I'll bring in Lucifer at this point. The more Lucifer would play out in a really dark or negative way in our life, the more, out of touch we are with source. If we want to bring in some scriptures from Christianity, we could say that it's a little bit like the having, the devil, Satan, on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder. And it's like, well, they're both trying to get your attention. And, which one are you listening to the most? And Jeffrey Wolf Green actually says this is a really interesting statement. He says that the more evolved one is, the more that Lucifer energy comes after you. And it makes sense because it seems that Lucifer doesn't really like it when people have that knowing and that seeing of God's source, because it makes him, if we use gender into this, it makes him less powerful. He's got more power and more influence over the earth and the world and humanity and people when he allures people into his sphere. And he has a very strong impact on people who are very emotionally weak. That's a big opportunity for this particular archetype to influence, the choice making. And it's a very, very complex subject. I will be touching on this in my class this week. If you want to understand more about it, just join the class. But it may sound like I went off track there, but not necessarily, because I'm really just trying to highlight the importance of Neptune on the North Node, which is God, which is the source of everything, saying to us, hello, have you completely lost your mind? Have you completely forgotten, where you come from? Right? And have you sort of totally lost sight of what is really meaningful? It's time to start to get back on track with that, basically. Now, people will listen to this and they'll think, oh, who gives an absolute shit about that? I want to know, how you can predict this and how you can predict that, and when am I going to have this and when am I going to have that? And sure, look, I can understand people feeling like that, but it is a pretty fucking self-absorbed and selfish position to be in. Because when we are just thinking about ourselves, our own means, our own desires, our own objective, and we don't give a shit about, where we come from and the bigger sort of purpose and bigger picture and bigger meaning, well, that's a very egotistical, personality-based, self-absorbed position to be in. And there's a lot of people like that, right? And so people, I suppose, who are more closely aligned to that way of feeling or thinking, they won't even be listening to this presentation. But for those of you that are, I just want you to hear me when I say that, Neptune on the North Node is really a doorway where God is calling us, or Goddess, or divine source creation to all things, or nature, whatever you want to define this source and energy, which is immutable consciousness, which is infinite, calling us, reminding us of where we've come from. So that's part of this picture here as well. And as I said, because Ceres is also squaring the nodal axis, the theme around lost and departing and things is going to be ramped up because of Ceres. I have no doubt about that. Let me think. Is there something else I wanted to mention there? It's just escaped my mind. Ah, yes. Just finally, I'll close with this. Given this is a cardinal cross, meaning the sun and moon, new moon, solar eclipse, nodal axes. That polarity is Aries Libra, right? And the other axis squaring that is Capricorn Cancer, which where we see Mars and Ceres. This is a grand cross, right? And we know that Mars is going to go retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo. So it's going to be in Cancer for quite a long time. In fact, until April of 2025. So this Mars in Cancer journey is highly crucial. And one thing to remember about Cancer is it's a very unconscious sign. So there's a lot of unconscious material, if you like, or even just subconscious and unconscious emotional stories that we've connected to from the past that are being stirred up now, right? Which basically speak to our sense of security. All of that's being stirred up right now. So we could have, really super strong emotional responses and reactions to things, and we kind of need to keep tabs on that. We need to watch ourselves and how we are responding, because look, the fact of the matter is when something really upsets us on that emotional level, our response is irrational, because emotional reactions are not supposed to be rational. They are just, a pool of, or an ocean, of different emotional spaces, or oh, I don't want to say feelings, because I see feelings as a little bit different. Feelings to me go into a deeper level. Feelings I associate more with soul, whereas emotions are more, yes, they are deeply rooted in us, but they tend to disrupt us quite a lot, um, whereas feelings are more akin to feeling blissful, you know, um, feeling satisfied, feeling content, feeling peaceful, things like that. More soul language or soul experience, right? Whereas emotions tend to be very disruptive, right? Because emotions can be angry, yes, they can be happy as well, but they have this range that has really distinctive extremes, Anyway, Mars in Cancer will, I think, be a big source of the evoking these different emotions in us, over the next few months, and it's all going to come through things that make us feel really insecure, essentially. So this Mars is very connected in this solar eclipse as well. And Mars, is a malefic. It is connected to anger. It's not about love, it's about anger, right? It is about desire, it is about willpower, it also is about defending and fighting for what we are passionate for and things like that, for sure. But it's an energy that brings up conflict, right? And here it is squaring, the solar eclipse. So there's some conflicting things that we might struggle with internally within ourselves that bring up a lot of deep insecurities about our understanding or perception of relationships and people. And that's something we're going to have to really observe and reflect, Mars in Cancer, and especially Mars going retrograde, it's an introspective journey. So we can dive into that ocean within and have a look at a lot of different emotions and a lot of different stories that we have an emotional attachment to, and how is that serving us in terms of creating a deeper sense of security within ourselves, you know? Are the stories that we tell ourselves, that we have attachments to, still influencing our life, even if it is subconsciously, you know? These are all the sorts of things that we can really process and work through with Mars in Cancer. It's not easy though, and Mars is in its full position as well. So it's not the strongest position for Mars, that's for sure. But look, those are the main things to consider relative to this eclipse. And that's right. And finally, I was just going to say with the cardinal cross. So people who have particularly personal planets or any of the angles of their birth chart, as in the ascendant, descendant, the MC, top part of the chart, IC, bottom part of the chart. This is called the cross of matter. These are the 4 angles of the chart. These angles are purely based on time of birth. Because this wheel around here, right, the zodiac signs that you see on the outer wheel, these are the signs rising on, this is the eastern horizon. The ascendant is the eastern horizon. So this is, you know, the sun's pathway. Also, it's the ecliptic, right? So everything rises, culminates, and sets, right? So the ascendant, midheaven, descendant, IC, these are energy points, the most powerful energy points and pathways and doorways where things open because something rises here on the ascendant. And up here on the midheaven, you know, it culminates, and on the descendant, it's setting. So they're different energy points, but they're all energy points, right? So when you have your cross of matter in cardinal points, and you've got all these cardinal energies being activated at the moment, such as the solar eclipse and Mars in Ceres, then, you know, it might be that your angles are being strongly amplified at this time. And it's kind of like someone's knocking on your door really loudly, and you open it to see what's there, because you've got to open that door and see what's there for you, and you've got to work with that, whatever it is. In this case, it's a solar eclipse, Mars and Ceres, and Neptune on the North Node. These are the points that are going to be knocking on your door, so to speak. Now, if you've got different angles, and so this cardinal cross doesn't affect your angles, you might have any of the personal planets, you know, in any of these cardinal signs. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, which again, this cardinal cross is will have a direct impact with your sun in Libra, or your moon in Libra, or your Venus in Aries, you know, or your Mars in Capricorn, and so on and so forth. So all you people who have strong cardinal energy in your chart, these cardinal energies at the moment, these doorways that are being highlighted, would probably be quite loud in your field at the moment, versus people who don't have hardly any cardinal emphasized in their chart at all. But irrespective of all of that, this solar eclipse speaks to the entire human race, regardless. Some people will feel things a lot stronger than others, though. There is no question of that. And also with solar eclipses, they are usually more, they've got more of a punch to them. You know, they're just a lot more amplified energetically. So I hope that whatever you've been going through, that you've been able to learn a lot about yourself, and just wherever you are in life at the moment. And I hope this energy of the final door closing of the last Libra solar eclipse for the next 18 years, that you can walk away with a greater sense of your own self, Aries, a greater understanding of what you've needed to leave behind and why, like a conscious understanding about it. That would be one of the greatest gifts. And also, you know, really connecting with truth, Neptune, spirit and source, so that you may find more truth on your path, you know. So that's all I have for today, and I'll see you guys pretty soon with more. Don't forget, reach out if you want to join this class this week on Lilith and Lucifer. It's going to be a pretty interesting class. As I've said a couple of times, the darker divinities are often greatly misunderstood, especially in this consensus reality, and for the most part, unconsciously projected. So, you know, we have to project things. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it's more about understanding what one is projecting. And Pallas Athena is actually one of the divinities that helps us have clear seeing, because she removes false projections, by the way. And look at her at the moment, she's in Sagittarius. So she's opened a doorway for, incredible wisdom to come through. And fire signs, of course, always inspire us. They take us into spirit. That's what the word inspire means. See you soon. Much love and take care.